I'd like to welcome everyone. My name is Brian Parrott. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation for Haverford Township, and this is the Brookline Park Planning Meeting. I'm just going to give you a brief introduction to how we got here. For those of you that may know, Brookline School closed over 40 years ago. The school district had been using it as a senior center and a place for the intermediate unit to do some classes there. They closed it like 3 years ago and turned it over to Township for community use. At that time, there was some debate on how they were going to use the land. There was talk of possibly the library, but that didn't happen. And the library is going to be remodeled where it is. So last fall, the Recreation Department and the Park Board got together and reached out to the neighbors to say, we'd like to get some input on what you would like to see at Brookline Park. So after speaking to the neighbors for 3 or 4 months, what became clear is the neighbors were looking for something unique. The neighbors were looking for something not like your typical park. So we decided to put together a planning process so that the community could have input, because it's rare in a community, a well-developed community like Haverford that had the same population since just after World War II of roughly 50,000, to have an opportunity to build a park from scratch. So we felt like we would leverage that opportunity and get input from the community to try to do the best park that we could. We went through a process where we submitted proposals. We had 9 firms bid on the job, and after a pretty significant selection process, we settled on 3 firms to interview, and then Simone Collins, who is up here tonight as our planners, was selected as the planner. This is Peter Simone, he's the principal, and this is Sarah Leeper, who's on his team, and they'll be leading a discussion tonight to find out what you would like to see at Brookline Park and where we go from here. So I'm going to turn it over to Peter. Before I do, just let you know there are some refreshments in the back, some pretzels and some drinks. Thank you.
And hello, everybody, and thanks for coming out. We are recording this meeting, and also we're broadcasting on the web. We have a few people attending virtually, so the meeting's being recorded. We have one camera that goes that way, one camera that comes this way. And when you, most of the meeting, we're going to be listening to you. So when you speak, just please speak up as loud as you can. The mics are pretty good. They should pick you up, but you do have to speak loudly and clearly. We may have run out of handouts. There may be a few more out there. If you're a couple and you both took one, maybe you could share one with somebody who doesn't have it. But this is our agenda. It's pretty short presentation. We're going to run through with you some housekeeping items and how we see the park moving forward. Township also has appointed a steering committee. These are the folks that are on the steering committee. If you're on the steering committee, would you just raise your hand and hold it up for 1 sec? Okay, so maybe you know some of these folks, but thank you. And we're meeting with them in between public meetings, and they're just sort of sounding boards for the community. So if you know some of these folks, talk to them too in the next weeks and months ahead. To let them know your ideas and thoughts as we go forward. Again, my name's Pete and Sarah we're here tonight. Michelle Armour is attending online, and we're all 3 of us are landscape architects. And Anita Nardone is also on our team. She's a civil engineer. So we're going to be involved in this project over the next several months with you. Real briefly, a little bit about our firm. Simone Collins has been in existence for 32 years. Myself and Bill Collins, we've been doing this for over 45 years each. And most of what we do are parks, recreation, trails. We do a lot of work with DCNR, Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, which is a terrific state agency that's responsible for parks and helping communities fund projects like this. And we've worked with hundreds of communities all across the state of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware. So this is the main thing we do: parks, recreation, trails, and we're very, grateful to be selected. This is for us. This is a really fun project. Hopefully, it's going to be a lot of fun for you too. These are some of the things we try to do on all our projects. I don't read all these things, and they're aspirational. Sometimes we do better than others on some projects in terms of how successful we are. In terms of respecting the ecological context of the site. And there is ecology on the site, whether it looks like that way or not. We want to be conscious of that. We want to make the site more ecologically interesting and healthier than it is today. We want to be conserve materials and energy and also conserve resources as we do these projects. So we try to consider all these things as we move forward. If you want to see our experience, you can go to our website. We're not going to bore you with it tonight. But again, we do lots of parks and recreation. We've been doing it for a long time. So in terms of the process, first of all, as Brian mentioned, the township put out an RFP, a request for proposal. And in the RFP, they've given us very little direction. But I thought it was important to tell you what that direction was. The site's intended to be multifunctional. It's a neighborhood park, meaning it's going to serve mostly the people who live nearby. And the use will follow community aspirations through this master plan process. And it's anticipated that there'll be some small scale neighborhood uses like walking paths, sitting plazas, benches, public greens, some playground equipment, and that's a very general sort of thing. We're going to get into much more specific things as we go forward with you. Some neighbors have expressed interest in an elevated landscape design, meaning we just don't want to do an institutional landscape. The interest seems to be a more beautiful place than you get in a typical park. Maybe with some horticultural interest, probably with native plants, color all year round, beauty. Beauty is something we all love, but we don't talk about it very much. But when we see it, we know it and we appreciate it. So we want to make this a beautiful place for the community. And also, this will be a gathering space where people can enjoy nature and play together in one space. People watch, hang out, have a cup of coffee. I mean, those are some of the great things that maybe before the pandemic we took for granted. At least after the pandemic, I don't take those things so much for granted anymore. Maybe you don't either. So we want to make this a really great community place. And why do we plan? Why do we do this stuff? And I think your township probably realizes it's better than most that the most visible part of local government is often through parks and recreation. Rather than the tax collector or the building inspector, parks and recreation is the happy face of local government where your kids play baseball, you meet your neighbors. There are great things that go on in your park system. And also, this is where you build community. Hopefully, when this is built in a couple of years, you're going to meet some of your neighbors maybe you don't know today. You'll meet them in this park. You may have common interests about plants or something else that's going on in the park, maybe grandkids or kids playing on the playground. So we think this is a very important piece of local government, and hopefully you do. So we always get asked, what is a master plan? And sometimes it's easier to explain what it's not. We're going to have a final plan in a document, a booklet, and it's a blueprint for moving forward, but it's not a construction plan. We cannot give this master plan to a contractor and say, build it. It's more general. It's going to be to scale. It's going to have very accurate cost estimates, but it's a master plan. And so I'm going to walk you through the steps of a master plan. So we're right here. And then when we do the master plan, we collect site data, we analyze the site. And tonight we're going to start developing a program with you. What things should be in there? What are the things you want to see? What are the elements? What are the activities? Then we'll start to develop some preliminary concepts. We'll come back to you at the next meeting, show you some of those initial ideas. You tell us what you love, what you hate, what things we missed. We'll go back and do some more work, come up with a draft plan. We'll present that draft plan. That'll be reviewed over a 2-month period. It'll be on Township's website. You can look in detail at it, get comments. So we'll come back with you and the committee, and we will make changes, and we'll have an approved master plan by the end of the process. And then you go back here, and then the next step is to secure funding, go through design and engineering, making sure we handle things like stormwater, utilities, and all those things that you have to do when you build something. And then there'll be construction. And this park will likely be constructed in more than one phase. It might not all be done in one fell swoop. It might be done over a period of several years. That'll be determined as it goes forward and as the township is able to get grant money. Pennsylvania is a very good place to get grant money. So I think this will be a very good candidate for the township to go out and get grants to build it. So I think on that handout, we have the project schedule. So here we're right at public meeting 1. We're in the process of setting up some focus group meetings. We're going to talk to some students. We're going to have a meeting for nearby neighbors. We're gonna have, I think, a senior group and one other, which I can't remember. Civic associations. Thank you. So we're gonna have those focus groups, which will be just smaller sessions where we do something similar to what we're doing tonight. And then we're gonna meet with the steering committee before Thanksgiving. And then our next public meeting with you will be December 6th. We'll come back with those initial concepts. We'll be here again at the same time. And then going to March, the public meeting number 3, March 29th. Then the final public meeting is June 29th. So those dates are all set. They shouldn't change. So hopefully you can plan, let your neighbors know. Maybe they can come next time if they couldn't come today. And then here, just the list of the focus groups, neighbors, students, seniors, and fraternal and local civic organizations. So those will be the focus groups we just get together with. Those meetings will be smaller by invitation. Also, we're going to have a public opinion survey, which is live today. You can go online and take the survey. And I think on the handout, there's a little QR code that you can scan on your phone, or you can use the URL. Just go on your computer. It's a short survey, I don't know, about 15 or 20 questions. It's going to be open to March, and it's a good way just to get the pulse of the community. It's not a vote. If everybody says they want a 50-foot deep swimming pool, we probably won't do that here. You know, even if 100 people said it. But if you get a pulse of the community, what's your recreational habits, what things you're interested in, it helps us make sure that we're getting everyone's opinion. So here's our scope. And again, it's pretty linear. I'm not going to read it. We do analysis, we get opinions, we develop a program, we start developing ideas, and then we come up with cost estimates and recommendations. We talk about maintenance, etc. And the reason you have this master plan document, when you go out for grants of $1, $2, $3, $400,000, the funding agencies want to see you have a plan. They want to see you know where you're going with this park. So that's a big reason why you do a master plan. So that when you go to DCNR or DCD or Delaware County, which has turned into a great funding source in the last couple of years, they know what you want to spend the money on. This helps communicate that to them. So you all know where the site is, of course. And because it's a neighborhood site, our expectation that most people who use this site, this park, will be local. We just drew some circles on here showing 1/8 of a mile, 1/4 of a mile, 1/2 mile, a mile. You know, I doubt very much if people will come generally from more than a 1/2 mile away. Maybe they'll come from a little further, but sort of a walking distance park. People will drive there too, but we'll see how that develops. The site, as you know, is a former school building. We just put green over where the building was, and it's sort of a blank slate. It's a blank canvas. It's pretty flat. I mean, there's a grade change of 8 feet from one corner of the site to the other. One corner of the site to the other. It doesn't look that when you're out there, but so it all slopes in from upper left to lower right. So that's the way the ground goes. That's the way the water will run. And that's, we have to be conscious of that as we pick up stormwater, as we start to build things. So that's really our presentation. What we're going to do for most of the evening is listen to you, okay? And we want your ideas. And what we do is, as you come up with ideas, we write them down on a piece of paper, we stick them up on the wall. So by the end of the night, we're going to have a wall full of your ideas. And that becomes part of the public record. And the goals are pretty straightforward. Provide a master plan, maybe provide facilities of all ages, you might suggest, or something like that. The facts are existing conditions. We've got a lot of neighbors. It used to be a school site. And then the concepts are, how do we get to the goals? What we're doing tonight is engaging all the neighbors, engaging the community. Another concept might be, and I'm sure this will come up, let's plant some more trees. That's an easy one, right? More trees is a safe one. So we'll come up with all those concepts. So by the end of the evening, we're going to put the screen up, and we're going to have these pieces of paper up on the wall. And these are just some maybe typical things that you don't come up with. And tonight, there are no bad ideas. We don't want to debate ideas tonight. But we want to get all your creative thinking. Then we start to put it in the mixing bowl and try to spin it to the site and see where we go with it. So if Brian says he wants a 50-foot tall water slide, if Brian comes up with great ideas like that, we know that's never gonna happen, right? But I'm not gonna say, Brian, that's a dumb idea. I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna write it down and put it on the wall, because what that might mean, what that might translate into is, gee, maybe there's a little spot where a kid could get wet on a hot day. Maybe that's what he's thinking. I don't know. But we're just not gonna qualify ideas. So if somebody says an idea that you don't like, you don't want to get into an argument. We just want to celebrate everybody's ideas. The other thing you can tell us also is what you don't want to see. If there's something that you don't want here, that's fine. Tell us that. Because we need to know that too. So by the end of the evening, we're going to have this whole wall of ideas. So with that, we are going to put the screen up. And sorry, you need to shut the projector off. So in a second, Sarah's going to shut the projector off. And then what we'll do is, and I should mention too, the restrooms are right here to the left. If you need to use the little boys' room or the little girls' room, it's right out here to the left. And what I'll do is if you just raise your hand, I'll point to you. Try to keep your comments to the point and succinct so we get to everybody. If you have a couple of ideas at one time, that's great. We will try to jot them down, get them up on the wall, and then try to get to whoever wants to speak up. And then if you have more ideas, we'll come back to you a little later. So we've got, we're supposed to go until 9, so we have plenty of time to listen to you and get your ideas up on the wall. So who wants to be brave and go first with an idea? Go ahead, in the back.
So, one thing is that a lot of my children to get years later, so that would be my number one thing I want.
Okay, terrific. So we're going to put playground up there. Great. Who has another idea? Go ahead in the red shirt. Okay, so you want some new fencing. Are you at the one end, the two houses? Okay, great, okay. Go ahead in the Phillies shirt.
Hi, wondering why you keep saying there's no pool? Why can't we get a pool? I grew up in
Okay.
Philadelphia. There was
I said a 50-foot pool.
Okay, you said twice, no pool, but I grew up across the street from a recreation center. We had a pool, the kids learned how to swim there. We had, they had shows every year, at the end of the year for swimming, they give dancing class and dancing shows.
Yep. On the wall.
I want to.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to see a fenced-in area for off-leash dogs.
Dog park, basically. Okay, great.
Can I say something I would like to not see?
Yeah,
I would like
sure.
To not have concession stands there. We would
Okay,
have lots of trash all over the place.
so no,
No
Concession.
No concession stands, but yes, a dog park.
go ahead. Did you have your hand up over here? No, okay, go ahead with the red hat on. Then we'll go to the woman in front of you. Go ahead, red hat, you're next. Okay. An open air pavilion, okay? You're next.
The seventh ward that abuts Burlington, where I am on Mill, there's no playground or park to actually walk to that possibility. So it'd be great to have it be a walking neighborhood park, but be able to cross over Arlington Road.
Okay,
And be able to, because there's no park, like when I bring my kids, it's like no park without crossing Darby, Arlington.
right. So can I just paraphrase? You want a safe crossing, Burlington, or safe crossings,
Yeah, and
plural.
get more input from the seventh ward people, given the Brookline neighborhood, that's a plus park.
Okay, well, you're here. That's good.
That's, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead in the t-shirt.
For the playground. Enclosure for it. Down prevent a little bit like allow the parents a little bit to relax it.
Okay,
Sort of pendant.
so a fence around the playground. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have 2 kids who are 5 and 6, and they don't have a lot of playground opportunities for the little kids. So we need to put in this confidence. That would be it.
Okay, so play equipment for younger,
Yeah.
Kids.
2 to 5, or yeah, toddlers, about 6-year-old.
okay, go ahead in the plaid shirt.
I live in 504 Sagamore, right across the site, and I'd like to think of something that's kind of a mix of several of these ideas and not make it all about playground, walking trail. But think about how you excite a whole bunch of different things, maybe a little bit of everything. We have young people, older people, teenagers, and all mixed together.
Great, mixed use, provide for all age groups. And why do you think it's good to provide for all age groups, if you don't mind?
We have all age groups. Neighborhood.
Okay.
10-year-old. I mean, you're right.
Good, go ahead. Great. Community gardens are popular in many places. Go ahead.
Walking trail?
Okay. Walkways. We knew that was gonna happen, so we made a card ahead of time. And walkways, you know, it could be, we do walkways down in all the parks, big, small. It might be the most popular activity, right? People just walking around or jogging or getting some exercise. Okay. Walkways are important. Go ahead, Richard.
Is sandbox, like there is at Harvard playground?
Okay, sandbox, great. Black vest, go ahead.
I would like to have space to do yoga,
Okay. Tell me what that space looks like.
space for that. Yeah. Of a yoga class.
Okay, so paving, some kind of paving that you could put, stay dry, level.
Yeah, I don't know about paving. There's something that's less
Any
paving,
wood chips?
something that's
Okay.
softer than that.
Okay.
I also am in favor of being able to have leash dogs in the space. Also in favor of having some benches in shaded areas. So people can just sit and have a little bit of a nature bath.
Okay, tell people what a nature path is.
Just sitting in nature, being under a tree, being on the grass, being someplace that isn't concrete and metal and glass.
Okay, great, we're getting your stuff up. Go ahead in the orange shirt. Restrooms. Okay, restrooms, because, yeah, restrooms are very important, we think. We're, as a firm, we advocate for restrooms in parks for all the obvious reasons. Okay, in the blue jet vest.
No lights.
No lights, okay? What, we're gonna pause a minute to let Sarah catch up and me catch up, because you're doing great. Why no lights? What kids? Your kids? Kids in the neighborhood? Which kids? Older, like teenagers? Teenagers, do we want teenagers in this space? Do we want teenagers here?
That's fine, but not at night.
Okay, so where do they go at night?
If you start putting lights on, that's a whole, different, problem.
Okay. All right, thank you for getting some detail. Go ahead, next to.
Reflexology path they have here. They have a composting area. There are a lot of things here, a lot of things that. But it's like areas where you sit in the shade and go with there with a child.
Sort of self-directed recreational activities or yoga or stuff like that.
Education.
Okay, what, do you have specifics in mind in terms of education?
I just
Okay,
Sorry.
great. With the beard, in the back.
Yes, I'm gonna, by the way, second one, I'm really talking about now. I've been hoping, and I think a lot of us hope that we get out on Ellington rather than having on Saginaw.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Having a parking lot off of Burlington, one in, one out. People can park, not on the side street to park. If you get very congested on the side street, you have a lot of neighbors who do not have driveways. So in the past, there's been events, it's sporting events on Saturdays, it's cars everywhere, it's really not safe, kids running all over the place. So if there's like a morning one out on Ellington, you kind of control the traffic flow, because having a new park, people are gonna come more than a mile away with little kids. I have little kids, so I know we get all parks all over, one in, one out.
Okay, so you're saying, first of all, we want parking, right? That's what you're suggesting?
Yeah, off Ellington, not off the side.
Yep, and then you're saying specifically come off of Arlington. Okay, we'll get those two ideas up there. Go ahead in the orange sweater.
Public park. We wanted to see some kind of like statue or like something fun that feels peaceful and inspiring. And if it had a water feature, we would like that even more. I think some form of water in that park could be a plus. Does not use things well, but some balanced water. And then, you know, we're on Casimir, our backyards are not that big. Having some kind of open space that could be a soccer field or just open space where the kids can kick a ball around.
So an open lawn.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we got all your ideas. Great, thank you. Gray sweatshirt, mask. The mask man, go ahead, speak
I
up.
like all the active recreation that's here. It's a great community feel. But I think, big priority there, starting out in the beginning, is, water management, stormwater management. In that neighborhood, there aren't any storm inlets from the boulevard all the way down to, Oxford Road, Edgewood Road. There is one storm drain inlet. So if they could have stormwater management, but fit in with the park.
Yeah.
Such as more than the trees, rain gardens, what have you.
Let me ask you a question on that topic. Are there any chronic drainage problems in the park in terms of does water pool anywhere? Or there's the people who live at the edge of the basketball?
So
Do you have problems?
there's water comes from the northwest section, which would be Saginaw and
Yep.
Road down to the southeast. So that would be going to extend, now that the school is gone, there could be a lot of ponding, puddling, could be.
You don't know?
I know that right now, a lot of that erosion comes off onto the sidewalk. And
Okay, so there's some mud coming through. Well, that would be of late for the construction, but, okay, that's good, thank you. Important, go ahead.
I think what he was also saying, not that there were drainage problems in the park, but the park could assist in some of the drainage problems outside the park. So stormwater control, not just for the park, right, or if you have a parking lot,
Right.
but in the green space of the park to create, vertical interest. Some people are interested in the aesthetics. You can actually accept stormwater into it. Maybe some rain gardens, create some vertical relief and beautiful native plants.
And you're with the EAC, right?
I am.
Okay,
How did you guess?
because I'm psychic. And what this gentleman said is very important. You have in the township what's called an MS4 plan, which you get a permit for, where you have to worry about water quality and getting rainwater back into the soil. It's a mandate by the government to do that. It's a good thing. So it may be a thing where you can get park money to help solve your MS4 problem or your permit, which is always a challenging thing for the township. So, important comment that we have to think about it. It's not something that's going to be necessarily visible, but it's very important. It's part of the infrastructure that has to be done. And by law, we have to control stormwater on the site. Go ahead.
The idea of bathrooms or something, I want to add to that, is to think about how to make it nice looking, in terms of sightlines. I mean, I know we got the bathrooms in some of the other parks around town years ago, there's kind of the four cinder block walls and then a roof on top. Not the usually thing for house, right up the park.
Yeah, very important. And I'm going to put up what I spoke about earlier, which hopefully nobody, well, every idea is good tonight, but I'm just going to put up the beauty card, because we all want things to be beautiful where we live and where we work. So think about beauty and things like utilitarian things like bathrooms. Why
Even
not?
if you get a less thing. It's nice, but,
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I go to Haverford back a month ago. Great day. I think this is a great thing. So thank you for opening it up to the public. I do have a 14-month-old, so selfishly, I would like to see a ton of the playground. But also I think that it's important to honor things like giving back to maybe the folks who that gardens, something in our area to be great. I think that's awesome. Add to the aesthetic. It looks overall. I think for adults, an exercise area would be great. We lived in Haverford and they had events for all movements, all the time. That kind of impact to all year round as well. I think. But something all year round, I think would be beneficial, in addition to some of the summer concert series, like local movies to fire or anything like a host, like anything that would bring people to the park, not just to play and the big events is something like I'm looking.
Yeah, I don't, if everybody in the back heard this young woman said, a place where you can have small events might be great, where the community can come out. Maybe it's whatever, a flea market or a pumpkin fest or who knows.
Tree lighting.
Sure.
Something like John.
Okay. Events, movie night. Okay, great. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks. Before I get to what I want to say, I agree with that. A place to bring in trucks. No concessions, perfectly fine with a place for that. And then on behalf of my slightly older kids, a multi-sport field for actual pickup sports, where they don't have to, all of the kids' schedule gets driven.
Right.
Something with a soccer/football.
Okay, so an open play area, and you said a place where we can accommodate a food truck if you're having an event, so people could buy a taco or something. Okay, great. Back to the red shirt again.
I'd like to
You like it, see what?
basketball.
Okay. So keep one basketball, okay? Somebody, go ahead.
I appreciate your beauty note up there. I'm thinking like blue column out square by, so like a gazebo, my second, the fountain idea. And then I don't know what was done with the stone from the building that was there, but I'd love to see that incorporated.
Which?
It's a stone.
Yeah, it's been saved.
Yeah.
Some of it's been saved, so I think we talked about trying to incorporate that in some things that get built. Okay, go ahead.
And then, artificial grass area, which I think is related to what was said earlier. I was thinking, like accessible to food trucks, ice cream trucks, that sort of thing, or like a town center, like area, seating on artificial grass.
And what's the good thing about having artificial grass from your experience? Yeah? What else? Okay, and after a big rainstorm, you can go out and use it at 10 minutes after a huge thunderstorm, because the water goes through it. And you could, typically in artificial turf, you have drainage collection under it, stone underneath artificial turf. So it could serve double duty. So that might be something to consider. It makes it more usable even when the weather's not that great. Okay, go ahead.
And have picnic tables, but instead of having pavilions,
Yep. Okay, and if anybody has pictures of things they like, you have our emails. You can send us pictures anytime. We'd love to get them. Go ahead. Say it again. ADA, what was the last word?
Consideration.
Yes, yeah. What the young woman said was ADA considerations, Americans with Disability Act. It's a law that we have to provide for people who have mobility difficulties, whether it's me and I sprain my ankle and for 6 weeks I have crutches, or somebody who has more serious things. So it's not only the law, it's the right thing to do. And the great thing about the site is very flat. We should have no problem making this whole site ADA accessible. So that's very important for all members of the community. Yeah, and the other thing that goes with that ADA is whatever play equipment we have, we want to make that inclusive. That means not only ADA accessible, but will accommodate all different ages and abilities of children too. So it's inclusive in an area. So we're not excluding people because of the equipment. Go ahead.
This could definitely be the place now, but like a swing that, good swing.
You know, swings, I've been doing this for over 40 years and swings have not ever gone out of popularity. So we will put swings up there. Even with all the new stuff they come out with. Go ahead.
Nick, not here, also in Cashmere. We want one of those, I haven't seen it, but it's a swing that allows your baby to face you. And there's some special name of it. I think nodding.
One of them's called like a swing along, but yeah.
Yeah.
So we can put that up.
There's none, she said the closest is like 40 miles from here, or 40 minutes from here, and it was really special.
The other thing I just want to manage your expectations a little bit in that, you know, we're going to be done this process in several months. And then the township has to go through design and engineering, then you got to get funding, then you build something. So optimistically, being realistic, it's probably two to 3 years before the first phase of this is built. So if you have a toddler now, they're going to be a little older. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, I mean, these things take a little bit of time. So and even if it's moving quickly, go ahead. Okay.
Instead of more of an exploratory areas for kids, so you would like, come across a log to climb on, or a big rock, or a sculpture, copper sculpture of a frog or something, you would just go around and explore it, kind of run around. And I like what the guy said about an enclosed area. I wanted to use the stone, just make a stone wall around the whole thing, so that you aren't going to have kids running into this.
Okay, and what you described as exploratory play, the current term is nature-based playgrounds. And it's a very popular thing. So we'll put that idea up there, but just in case you hear later, the idea of nature-based playground, that's what you basically described for us. Go ahead in the back. Okay. Yep, absolutely. Right. Right, okay. I mean, one thing that I'm hearing, maybe I'm assuming, but tell me if I am. I'm assuming you don't want this to look like every other playground in the world, right? You want this to be a special place, make this different? Okay, all right, go ahead.
I mean, of course, but I think, but if you want to stay at flat. So obviously the trails don't have to be steep or anything like that, but I think you can play with the trails.
Okay, so everybody heard this gentleman, he's saying, don't always keep it flat, maybe play with the topography a little bit, which we can do. I mean, we have tolerances. A path doesn't have to be absolutely flat to be handicap accessible. So, yeah, great observation. What else? Go ahead.
A beautiful park. First of all, that would be great. To appeal to different ages. But I would love to see this be a park that people walk to and to not have much of a parking lot at all. Absolutely not. Honest. It's not that much space. I mean,
Right.
And there are other bigger venues with bigger places to park, you know, for other bigger events.
Yeah, I'll use the word struggle with automobile parking on every park we do, because it's sort of a necessary evil. Somebody's gonna want to drive here, which is understandable, but what's the balance, right? We don't want to take away a lot of green space. So we'll look at ways where we have accommodate parking, but do it in a way that doesn't eat up a lot of green area, right?
And it's also pedestrian access, you know.
Absolutely. Okay, go ahead and sweatshirt there.
I grew up on 1016 Arlington, which is diagonal from the area that we're talking about. And so I thank everyone for all of the ideas that you've offered, because to be honest, I was a library lover of this space, but knowing that is out the window, I really appreciate and I'm re-envisioning the space. I think on the parking note, something to consider is that there was a parking lot there anyway, and parking was still an issue, like on. So I think whether there's a parking lot there or not, I can't really see the impact. I agree. I think keeping it a walking playground where it's kind of staying central to Haverford would be lovely. And then just to echo, I also really like the idea of splash pad. And there aren't many parks, with the exception of the park here at the Rec, that isn't dirt or wood chip based. And so to go off with the idea of having a toddler-friendly space, having something that's a little bit more solid surface.
Port in place safety surface, yeah. Yeah, it's less maintenance too. So we're seeing a tendency for playgrounds to go in that direction because it's less maintenance. In the long run, it's safer also. Go ahead.
The parking, bicycle lockup, sizable, it's also promote people from not walking too.
Yeah. Great, okay. Go ahead.
I have a question. So does having parking backfire and encourage more people to drive in your experience?
That's a good question. I can't answer it. I don't know. Certainly, cities like Boston have consciously provided very little parking, so people have to use mass transit. And it seems to work. If you've been to Boston lately, it's a great city, despite what we think of the Bruins. But, in other places do that. There are a lot of cities now who are leveraging tariffs on driving into a city. It's not that situation. So the trend is fewer cars, more people, more bikes. But I really can't answer that question.
I think it's a bus.
Yeah, we'll make sure we understand the bus route. That's the point. Okay, go ahead.
Picking up on the parking, I agree with the gentleman. As you pointed out, most of the people coming here are going to be coming from a quarter of a mile. Very walkable, it's very bikeable. I think unless you turn the whole thing into like literally baseball fields, you really aren't going to have need for a huge parking space. If you do have activities where you think you want parking, I would encourage you to have like a grid on grass kind of parking where you could do it on an event basis, but normally it would be green.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, with the glasses on your head.
So I would like to see, concept where it's less is more. Everyone's talking about, parking again, events. We went 3 years down right now, so my husband's traveling home, but we also with 12 years backed up to the police field. So we experienced it before there were pavilions, before there were bathrooms. I can tell you what it was like afterward, and I'm telling you now, it is nicer to have a park out back room. Destination. You're going to have destination, you're going to have a lot of parking. Really, it's not kind of big of a. Yeah, and yeah, we don't want to. Keep a lot of the places already down that. Like right here. For destination for that.
Okay, so basically, less is more.
It's quiet neighborhood. Quiet neighborhood, not, just don't want to see it.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. Who is here tonight who actually, not a block away, but who faces on the park on the 2 streets? Okay, great. So let's, and you should make sure, I don't know how we're gonna, I guess we're gonna do the adjacent neighbors, Brian, by address, right? So you'll be getting, I don't know if we sent it yet, but soon you'll be getting something about this local neighbors thing. But, one of the things we always try to do with parks is to be a good neighbor with the neighbors, right? Be respectful of the people who live closest so that you're creating a community amenity without overly infringing on the people who live nearby. So I think that's an important concept. We're probably gonna do a card that says, we have a card. Sarah reminded me to be good neighbors. And so I think that's an important thing for us as designers to keep in mind. I mean, what we're trying to do tonight is just get everybody's idea up on the wall. It doesn't mean we're gonna include all this stuff. It would be impossible to include everything, probably. That's probably a good thing. So we want to be conscious of the people who live nearby. So it's an amenity for them also, and not a distraction or a nuisance, right? Go ahead.
The existing basketball court, pickleball, and I hope that whatever replaces it will be multifunctional like that.
Okay, so a multifunctional art space, right? Okay, go ahead, man.
Well, someone brought up lighting. So first of all, I live across the street. I didn't want to have lights there. I think it's like more light pollution. And also it affects wildlife, like moths and fireflies and their
Teenagers.
whatever. All these yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't help it. All right, so be careful with the light. If we have lighting, or maybe we shouldn't have lighting, but everyone's going to be careful. Absolutely. Go ahead.
I'd like to see it incorporate, or looking for a space in the township to incorporate music and arts. Perhaps a permanent pavilion, or just a small gazebo where we can incorporate some music and arts in the space. In Haverford Township, there is no movie theater. If we want to do a movie night, we've got to hang a sheet on the fence and desk to do that to a facility. I'd like to see it incorporate something where we can put some small music performances on stage, perhaps movie nights.
Okay, and just to be devil's advocate for a minute, who would come to those musical events?
Depends on who you put on stage. If it's local kids, local performers, local people will come. Try to put on bigger performances. You think Blue Street Park. People come from miles around.
Sure.
Right. If you're not looking for that, you do something more like Norwich does with the gazebo. You put local performers on and you do a local draw.
Like one guy with a guitar, acoustical guitar. Okay, okay. Go ahead.
Back to the place, I went to teenagers there. In fact, if I was a teenager, I probably prefer not to have lessons. I do have to say, it can shine right in. Find all the things that are up there. Love them all, love a lot of them. But I would ask is we watch and we overlook that. I'm now going to sit here, you said possibly 3 more years of construction. You can't even play on the grass, that's dead. Right. It's, you know, we put some money in, not you guys, but I know there's other people listening that probably need to be a part of this, but get the grass used. Maybe more permanent fence of 3 years as opposed to chain link. Make it a little bit nicer for us than been pretty beat up for last.
So if I heard you rightly, maybe do something in an interim till the construction, just to clean up the field, make it safer. But the other thing I heard was, well, if I'm a teenager and there's no lights, of course I'm gonna hang out there, because that's where I can go drink a beer or smoke a doobie, right? I mean, that's what I used to do when I was a kid. I don't know what you guys did. I suspect it's the same thing. But if I'm doing it, if there's some lights and people can see me doing it, I'm probably not gonna do it then. Yeah.
More power to you.
Right, and I think lighting is one of those things. It's a double-edged sword. If we have lights, we have to be very careful. They cannot shine into neighbors. They have to go off at a certain time, and they have to be really frugally used, right? Very judicious use. So we'll explore that with you. I don't know where we're going to go with this. I mean, one of the things we don't know. We don't have any designs right now, so I don't know what we're going to come up with yet. But we'll go down that road with you. Go ahead.
The motion sensor lights being.
Motion sensor lights. Lady asked if it would be an option, and we use those a lot. Sometimes we put a motion sensor light in the pavilion. So if somebody goes in there at night, the light's out. But if somebody goes in there, the light goes on. So neighbors or local police know somebody's hanging out there. And that usually makes those people move somewhere else, typically. Okay, security cameras also could be considered. We'll talk to the township about that. I'm sure you guys have some in places, but we'll explore that too. Other things. I mean, this is not a high crime neighborhood, right? This is
Well, not yet.
well, you know, to me, Haverford is a pretty benign place. I mean, overall, I mean, things happen everywhere, but and this neighborhood seems to me very peaceful and quiet, right? Yeah. Go ahead in the orange.
Not the library that never was, a little library. A big little library.
Okay. Tell me what that looks like.
Library. A big shoebox size. Something a little bigger than that for, you know, kids, it's swapping books. Definitely community run. People bring their books there, and it's just a space.
Like a book vending machine. Okay. All right, great. What else? What other things have we mentioned yet? You're doing good. Go ahead. An instrument area. They have play equipment that are musical instruments, so those can be fun. The other side of the coin, they can be noisy, so we have to be careful where we put that. If we put it in. Okay. What else? Go ahead.
I think on my right, next one was for a community garden, one green space and dog park. But I say Stu was thinking that, you know, we have had a lot of good ideas over tonight. I think we can also, may not necessarily be right with this stuff, but we might have other parks area in this township that could use some good ideas. But something works, considering putting out something else.
Yeah, if anybody, Brian, gentleman said, you know, there may be some ideas here that could work in other parks. And I know you're doing an open space plan, looking at all the township parks now. So Brian and Eileen are going to get good ideas from this. You'll also see when you go to the survey, we ask you, what parks do you go to now? And what type of recreation do you do? So there are things that are general questions about your recreational habits and where you go that will also help Parks Department plan better for you and some of your neighbors in the whole township. Do you have a comment?
I just want to do, since some of these things, like we have such a place in the park, so we do have a dog park. We have issues with it where my dog comes back, and she's a white dog, she comes home black and brown, and she goes to Haverford Township. It's a better surface, you can easily fix that, then I wouldn't really need that one.
Okay. What else? What else? Go ahead.
That could be a native plants and trees. Water native.
Okay. Native plants and trees. Yep. And the reason we do that is because, you know, they're better for pollinators. They usually require less fertilizer, water. The other thing we're trying to look at is thinking about as the climate changes, what kind of trees are going to do better in warmer temperatures. So we'll try to consider that. This plan won't get into specific types of plants, but it's something that should be addressed later. Go ahead.
Maybe having some type of like natural sound barrier where like they can be there. And also, you know, if we're thinking about a park too, like not gonna want it right on Arlington as well. So, just taking the noise consideration.
Okay. Yeah, noise is a tough one. Plants don't really buffer noise too well. You need solid surfaces, but I think it's an important consideration. Okay, anything else that we haven't talked about or mentioned yet? Go ahead.
Not just.
Okay.
I mean, flowers, these are nice.
Yeah, well, big trees, if a large tree takes 80 years, you might see it, I'm not gonna see it, but we'll get them in.
Trees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we get it, we get it. Go ahead.
Big in, they preserve them. Down. There are two big trees on site now.
Yep.
Please leave.
Yeah, we talked about those the other day with the committee, and I think they're gonna remain unless we have a really good reason to take them down. That's our initial reaction, because they are huge and look like they're in pretty good condition. So my guess is those big evergreens should remain, no matter what we do.
There's a few shade trees.
Yeah, there's some shade trees there too. Go ahead in the back. You gotta speak up. Well, I think that's up for discussion. I mean, we've had some suggestions tonight to have an open field area where a kid or an adult could pick up frisbee or throw a football around. So my guess is, from a practical standpoint, we can't build stuff everywhere. It would be too expensive. So having a big lawn area is a practical consideration, but it's also a cost consideration because it's inexpensive. So my guess is we'll have some amount of lawn. I don't know how much yet, what it's gonna look like, but we'll start to take a look at that. I mean, it just makes sense that we have some lawn. And the other suggestion relates to that is having some area that's maybe artificial turf, because it's more usable. It doesn't get muddy. You can use it 10 minutes after a thunderstorm. So those are some of the things that have been suggested tonight, and we'll explore those. Okay. I'm gonna ask Sarah to do a card that says, nice to have kids playing there. Because sometimes we do parks and people come in and say, I don't want to see kids playing there. So thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
So they consider like anyone who plays like the younger kids that have talent. It's not supposed to be.
Right.
And there aren't very many. So if that could be consideration, you know, like just the practice there, or to have kids.
Yeah, I think with the stuff we're talking about, it would be hard to have a regulation size field.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, again, this is all
It's no
to,
play.
it's all to be determined, but, we haven't gotten any direction from the township. It's just, you know, an open lawn area. Maybe once in a while, I know now it's once in a while used for like T-ball, which you don't need a very big area. You get like 4-year-old kids trying to hit a ball, right? So,
Soccer.
yeah, or soccer too, right?
Right there.
But I think what we're hearing is small scale, not organized leagues or anything like that.
Right.
What else? Go ahead, in the back.
lot of people for houses.
Sure.
There's any yoga classes, that's happening on marketing, there's things.
Okay, great, thank you.
It's also possible to think of them as like a different kind of play space. Meaning, you know, kids could play hide and seek in a shaded place with lots of trees. Things around. I mean, my kids used to do, you know, T-ball and things like that there, but that encourages a lot of cars for just that one activity. And, it'd be nice to make it a play space where those neighbors could just sort of like go to the door and just walk and just go play
Sure,
without, you know, having like a whole.
okay, unstructured play, yep. Okay, what else? Are we tired? Are you getting tired? Any other things we haven't talked about? Okay, well, you did really well. These are a lot of ideas.
Yes.
And so, we can add a couple more if somebody has a last minute, idea they have to get up here, or you can contact us. Do we have any questions online?
I do not see any.
Okay, great. And so go ahead.
Yeah, last, like some kind of public display of what the history of that state was. Right, so you know, my interest or whatever, what the school used to be.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Did anybody go to school there? All right, we got a handful.
They named that field, Brookline Field, home of the Bear.
The Bear.
Everybody went there,
Yeah.
Brookline Bear.
The well, somebody wanted public sculpture, so maybe we do a bear sculpture. Okay, go ahead. All right, so what we're gonna do now is just tell you what the next steps are, which, just to make sure we're all clear. And, you know, again, this is just the start of the process. We have not drawn anything on a piece of paper yet because, we didn't know what to draw. So now we're starting to get some ideas about possibly what to draw. We're hoping the slides come on in a second. There we go. And we should see our show still up. Yeah, so the next steps, look at that. Okay. So the next steps are our next public meeting. We'll come back to you December 6th after you've had a terrific Thanksgiving with your favorite relatives. And we'll come back and show you some initial concepts we have. And we'll probably have 3 or 4 different ideas, maybe 5 for different parts of the park. And we'll run through them with you and you tell us what you like and what you don't like. That'll give us some good direction. We'll also meet with the committee before that. And then also, please go online and take the survey. Tell your friends about it, your neighbors. This really is helpful to us to get sort of a pulse of what you're thinking. And I think there's a place in there you can, you know, put in some things that aren't part of the multiple choice questions. And during the whole process, but here's our next meeting. And during the whole process, you know, we're here to listen to you and get your reaction. So we've got our contact information on those handouts. don't hesitate to send us an email. If you email us, try to email at least two of us, if not all four of us, just so that if one of us is out of the office for a couple of days, we get the message. Go ahead, you have a question? Yeah, I think we're working with Brian and Eileen to do that. So yes, we'll have a link there. Thank you.
Back to the dates again, I was slow.
Sure, and we will put this presentation, Brian and Eileen will put this presentation on the Township website in a couple of days. So you'll be able to see this little basic presentation and have those dates. And also, if that handout is, and if you don't know, you can always email us. Don't hesitate to reach out, or if you rather call us. We will return calls. So that's it. So thank you for your time tonight. And
I want to thank Sarah and Peter. They did a great job tonight. As they mentioned, we are having a public session on the Parks and Recreation Open Space Plan. Somebody commented here, obviously we can't put all of this at Brookline, but we're trying to figure out what makes sense there. But we would want to hear these same ideas as it impacts all of our parks in the township. So there was a survey that was sent out. It is on our website for that. There's going to be the survey for this. We would like to see you come out again and let us know what you'd like to see at all the parks, because that's a much bigger conversation. And it's going to impact all of us in the community, where this is going to impact that section of the town. So we'd like to get your input there. Check our website for more information. We will get this up on the website so you can see what was mentioned here. And there's a couple questions. I'll take that.
I did that survey.
Okay.
And it was hardly anything. So it just said, where do you like to go walking on trails and what three things would you change? And I was expecting, because I just did a speaker survey and I thought it was 5 questions, or 1 question, but it wasn't really good at all. So.
In the process, you see this is a very dynamic process. So coming to a public session and sharing ideas, you get ideas from other members of your community about, hey, I wouldn't have thought of that, but that does impact me, so I'm going to comment. So that's good feedback. We knew that wasn't nearly as specific as the survey that Peter and Sarah had put together. But coming to that public meeting will help, because the township's putting significant resources in their parks, recreation, and open spaces. We want to figure out how we maintain them. We've had some issues on maintenance, no doubt about it. Sure of that. But we want to try to figure out how do we take care of our township resources and what things we should be doing in our parks to deal with stormwater issues, to deal with some of the invasives that are in our parks, whether they're invasives of bugs or they're invasives of eating up our trees that you might see when you drive along Park. So we want to address some of those issues and see how we do that over the next 5 to 10 years, especially because the township putting significant resources into our parks. So we want to make sure we maintain that in a way that the residents feel comfortable.
Appreciate that. Thank you. That's like positive amount that your frustration of disappointment, and it's only on the website. People to point where going to be able to multiple ways that so you don't hear, I never heard that before.
Okay, just to say, we are aware of that, and when we planned this meeting, we send it out to the civic groups, we send it out to the commissioners, we send it out to the youth sports groups. But when we're talking about putting the presentation up, you're going to need to access it somewhere digitally. So we're going to use the website as a place to find a lot of that information. But we do realize, and your point's well taken, because not everybody goes onto our website. We did put information in our seasonal brochure, which goes out to every resident 3 times a year. So there'll be information like there was this past fall. We put information on both this plan and on the Parks Recreation Open Space Plan. So, but I do take your point, and we definitely want to make sure I think that attendance here shows that we made some impact in getting the word out, and we want to continue to do that as best we can.
There will always be somebody.
Always going to be somebody who can hear about something. Question.
We've been to a lot of meetings. Schools taken down. Just think that the neighborhoods,
yeah, it's just there's no plans. Yeah, no plans to take away any of the grass. So I'll start with this is all the process to get this started. There is no plans to take away any of the grass.
The library, I think it was I was, that was my.
I think from what you heard from this group, that there's a strong sentiment to keep that green space. But I didn't hear anybody here saying they don't want it. Yeah. Well, obviously, as Peter said, we're not going to be able to do all these ideas. This is just putting up ideas on the board and trying to develop, find out what the community wants. I think you guys were pretty clear about what you would like and what you wouldn't like. So I think that I would be surprised if we lose any of that green space in this plan.
Look, this is not very smart. We really want a lot of people coming to this area. We want to keep it for the community that's better. That's walking part.
Just the sheer size of it's going to limit how much you can
You
put.
make this too desirable. You're going to get, like you said, people coming from lots of places and see whatever we have down here. So I think you need to keep it low.
Yeah, on that point, it seems like we're probably very close. So I'm curious to hear the plans to get feedback from the group. Because I think it's a great opportunity. I think we're still looking on.
And our steering committee tried to represent a pretty diverse section of the community. People on the park board, people from represented, other groups, the green groups, the EAC and Shade Tree, those types of groups, tree tenders, that's good. Okay, I just wanted to make a few announcements before we left, unless I'll answer one more question.
I just wonder why I never hear the school or a way to get the word out. Like in this instance, Chad Park, PTA or something, I believe I got untouchable.
No, we feel like we have like 17,000 emails from residents. We feel like we can reach those same people that schools can reach. We did send out something to everybody who went to Grange Playground over the last like 8 or 10 years. We sent an email out to them. Figuring we really, again, trying to reach into this community. Yeah.
But I
Commissioner newsletter.
the seventh board has not heard much about this.
But we will make sure that Connor gets the information, yeah. I'm surprised because I thought Connor might have sent something out with that.
We did a week ago, that was it.
I just like.
Okay, we really appreciate you coming. And again, if you can come out to the meeting on November 9th for the Parks and Recreation Open Space Plan, we'd love to hear your input then. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Russell's in the back. You want to take one with?